The culture of America influence how people look at things. The kind of things that we have all been exposed to when we were children, shaped our worldview. And I'm just going to say it, a lot of Americans hold fascist views. It's not something that any of us can really escape because we're exposed to it as children, and we are indoctrinated to believe in American exceptionalism, since the day we're born. It's how we break out of that, fascistic mindset. Some don't break, a lot of Americans don't break out of it. In fact, their fascism becomes worse as they get older because they believe more and more into this American exceptionalist nonsense that's been pushed on them all their lives. And those who are, who reject American exceptionalism, we are shunned. And that is something that cannot be avoided. Even before I became a communist, I didn't believe in this American exceptionalist nonsense. I had some views that America as a whole, I don't know if I still have the video on my channel, but I did mention that there was a lot of good things about America, I thought at the time. It's just that full potential has never been allowed to be realized because of the bourgeoisie. But as I learned Marxism, studied history, I learned that that's just bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. And we were pretty much on a new topic now, but the more you study about American history, the more you realize everything I've been fed is bullshit. And I think that is the reason why you see a lot of people support Caleb. Caleb Maupin, for a lot of people, was probably their first Marxist that they've ever listened to. He was one of my first, I'm not going to lie. And I, at one point, believed everything Caleb said. I actually wanted to believe everything Caleb said because at the time, I needed something. I needed something to look at. I needed some hope that this country can change. Knowing that. But the more you learn about American history, the more you study Marxism, and the more you try to put this stuff into practice, try to talk to people about this sort of thing, the more you realize it's bullshit. So you have to do two things. You either ignore it or ignore it and actually stand by American exceptionalism. Or if you already don't have American exceptionalism and you reject it, and you've rejected it before becoming a Marxist, you have to reject it entirely. And that's what I did. Even, when I temporarily, this was last year, when I actually gave Caleb another shot, I thought, okay, I disagree with Caleb on almost everything, but I didn't think he was a bad guy. I didn't think he was malicious. But that changed. It's like I cannot believe anyone would know as much of American history and think that this country, isn't a fascist state, that that you can't, just have revolution in the same way as, China or Russia or Cuba or Vietnam, because the conditions are different. The conditions are way different. America, as a whole, it has the most revolutionary potential of the first world, but that's not saying a whole lot, because most of that revolutionary potential is going to be people in the lower classes, people that are living on a shoestring or who have no job whatsoever. Those people are going to be the most revolutionary. Those people are the most likely going to support a socialist movement. American exceptionalism from the left is not something that we should be pushing. And the very fact that this pushback, against American exceptionalism is justified. And the fact that you having supposed Marxists push this sort of shit is like, what? Are you fucking serious? It's like, we have to, we're not Marxists, we're not communists because we don't support the American experiment. I hate to break it to you, but most of the world does not support America. And every time I hear like the argument that the communists and the rest of the world has told people to stop saying death to America, I'm sorry, you're not going to convince me that those people are not anything but part of the middle class in the first place. American patriotism is the problem. American patriotism, what does it entail? What is it exactly? Why are we pushing for something that is, because, if you look at how things were in 9/11, which, mind you, 9/11 wasn't that long ago, 20 years to be exact. And I could tell you from personal experience, because I was a kid at the time, I was a teenager, there was so much fucking pro-fucking war, sentiment from America, and so much fucking racism against Arabs and so much Islamophobia that's the kind of shit that you would expect out of patriotism. You cannot get a positive form of patriotism. Not to mention using freaking other examples from countries in the fucking third world is fucking chauvinistic as fuck, because those countries, their nationalism isn't the same as American patriotism. Someone in Venezuela being a nationalist is not the same thing as being a patriot in America. It's not the same fucking thing. Patriotism in the imperial core isn't for working class people. It's for the bourgeoisie. It doesn't serve anybody but the bourgeoisie. Anyone that pushes this position isn't a serious Marxist. They're actually a counter-revolutionary pushing for a fascist movement that it is festering, and it basically is muddying the waters, where it makes it difficult to tell who's a communist and who's a fascist. Like, this infantile position of American patriotism needs to stop. It needs to stop being pushed in the fucking communist fucking left. It's insane. I don't understand why to this day we are still arguing over American patriotism. We've seen the failures of American patriotism with Browderism. We've seen it happen. It's like, didn't fucking Mao say correct ideas come from practice? We've done American patriotism. It fucking failed, and using a failed strategy and claiming, it's going to work this time is laughably, naive. If you want to push patriotism, be my guest. Just don't call yourself a Marxist. And yeah, call me an ultra if you want. I don't fucking care. Do it, because thank you, Caleb Cult. You've basically made, the word ultra, it's just a word now. It means nothing. Ultra doesn't mean anything. Simply disagreeing with you, your fucking infantile position is now being an ultra. Okay. Okay. If being an ultra means simply not supporting a fascist country like America, not supporting stupid positions like American patriotism, okay, whatever. When I hear, the masses, I don't hear, poor downtrodden folk. I don't hear like people that are living on a shoestring. When I think of masses, I think of white people. I think of white middle class people. That's the only thing that you think about, and honestly, I'm just going to say this, for Caleb here, calling, indigenous Maoists, white is fucking racist. Anyone that actually pushes that bullshit that, indigenous, Maoists are not indigenous is racist, and it is fucking disgusting. Fuck off. Maoists are overwhelmingly non-white. Being anti-Maoist is being anti-black and being anti-indigenous. I don't make up these rules. I don't do it. I do it based on what I've seen from the infrared cult and Caleb Maupin. What I mostly see is white supremacists, are looking for another excuse to attack people of color. I hear them. It's like any of this, like, reformist bullshit. It's like these people are fucking social democrats. They're not fucking serious communists. If they really were, why are they doing this stupid debate bro like thing? Like, they're indulging in the very thing they claim to hate. But let's be real, these people don't hate debate bro culture. They only hate it when it comes from breadtube. In all honesty, is there really a difference between infrared and breadtube? If you look at the superficial differences, you look at their rhetoric being anti-black, anti-indigenous, and misogynist, anti-trans, homophobic. I don't see a difference between breadtube or the infrared cult. To me, they're the same thing. Yeah, they may have some minor differences here and there, but to me, it's just two groups of fascists raging war against each other. Let the fucking morons rage war with each other. Let fucking the Vosh cult and the infrared cult go to war. Who cares? It's nothing off my back. I'll just grab some popcorn and laugh at the dumbasses that actually think that Vosh is an intellectual or infrared is an intellectual. It's like, do it. I don't care. Do it. You're not going to convince people that are against America, the country, not the people, the country, to support America and love America. You're never going to convince us. You're never going to convince people that already hate this country to love it. You're not going to do that. And no, just because, you don't have a Twitter account or a fucking any sort of social media account doesn't mean that you don't exist. That is just first world bullshit. Like, anyone that says that is not a serious revolutionary. If someone like Comrade Number 3 were to show their face or reveal what their full name is, you want to know what would happen? They'd be fucking killed by fascists. They hide their names to protect their identity and to protect their families. I guess you first world people do not understand that concept. That it doesn't take that much to find someone's location if their name or their face is on social media. It wouldn't take that much. Yeah. Yeah. It is this very notion that to be a true communist in America, you have to support everything this country does. You have to be a patriot. Fuck that. No, fuck that. I refuse to be a patriot of a country that has genocided multiple ethnic groups, has propped up fascism since its inception, and supports one of the biggest evils of the world, Israel is one of the most evil countries to exist. You cannot separate Americanism from Israel, Australia, New Zealand, or England. Or Canada, for that matter. They're all the fucking same. They're colonial superpowers. And you know what? I do support decolonization, and that hasn't changed. I think if you're a serious Marxist, you would support decolonization. And no, decolonization doesn't mean we send every single European back to Europe. That's just a straw man pushed by people that do not understand decolonization. That's not what it is. It's giving the people who lost their land, give it back, and have them decide what to do with it. And you know what? I don't care. If you want to say it's not practical, I don't care. It's going to be a topic of discussion whether you like it or not. Post-revolution, that's going to be a thing. That's going to be a topic of discussion. If you're not for decolonization, then guess what? You're no different from the fucking Israelis. Israelis, like, it's amazing how these fucking people who oppose decolonization, they act the exact same way that an Israeli does. It's like, how are you any different from the far right, saying that, oh, that happened like, decades or centuries ago. Let's talk about the now. It's like, yeah, let's ignore the genocide, the racism and colonialism and the imperialism that has happened and still is happening. Oh yeah, speaking of which, you think fucking North America is the only part of the continent that needs decolonization? I guess the Hawaiians don't deserve their land back. Because, Hawaii was forcibly taken from the Hawaiians. Same thing with Puerto Rico and the Philippines. I guess they don't deserve their land back. I support land back for the Irish and the Scottish too. To hell with this first world privilege. Oh, I don't want to, I'm afraid they're going to deport me. It's like, Jesus. And these people borderline pushed white genocide. I would not be surprised if you see Caleb Maupin pushing that bullshit in the future. Like, the very fact that I didn't see through that kind of thing sooner, it just proves how blind I truly was and how desperate I was to hold on to something. I'm not going to lie. If I wasn't exposed to Jason first and I wasn't as versed into Marxism as I was, I might have bought into Caleb and Infrared's bullshit. I might have. Yes, they do. Every indigenous people that had their land stolen deserve to have their land back. There's no exceptions to this. There is no exceptions. Every single indigenous person that's alive today deserves their land back. They deserve it. And they can decide whatever they want to do with it. And I don't want to fucking hear it. There's these official representatives. It's like, yeah, well, they're supported by the government, so why should I, take what they have to say with a grain of salt? And I don't claim to speak for these people. I don't. I'm just speaking my perspective. And there's better Marxists than me that could discuss this. And I still have a long way to go. I have a lot more studying that I still have to do. And I'll probably revisit this topic multiple times as my education, increases. I still have a lot of reading to do. And, being a Marxist doesn't mean you just stop learning. You still learn. Like, the whole goal is to be more educated 6 months from now than you are now. Like, the whole point is to get more educated. I'm gonna inevitably make some mistakes. That's definitely a inevitability because I'm only human. I'll make mistakes and I'll have to self-criticize. And that's just one thing I don't see from this group at all. Like, say what you will about Jason, say what you will about Trav, like, say what you will about Socialism for All or Danky King or any of these people. They have self-criticized time and time again. And that's more than I could say for Caleb. I've not seen one time that he's self-criticized. I never seen cringe, unhinged self-criticize. No, because these people in their eyes, they can't do anything wrong. They can't admit that they're wrong. They can't admit that they may have handled that situation poorly. They can never admit that they've done something wrong. That's what it comes down to. You cannot fucking convince me otherwise that what I see rising from this undercurrent is a fascist movement. You cannot convince me that it isn't a fascist movement. Why is infrared talking like somebody that I would hear from Iran say, "Oh, the land was never there was a lot of the land that wasn't used," or talk about fucking talk in a way that I hear a right winger like Ben Shapiro talk. All of these people, they sound like fascists, and you cannot convince me that they're not. And unless I'm proven wrong, I'm just gonna be labeling them as such. I never wanted to, do this, but I don't care. It's the right thing to do. I think Caleb is a fascist. I think Haas is a fascist. And I think anybody that supports that what they believe are fascists. It's not because I don't like these people. It's what they believe. It's the way they talk down to people, the way, like, basically claiming that indigenous people that don't support their bullshit are not really indigenous. It's fucking disgusting. It really is disgusting how anyone can defend that. Like, and not to mention, I don't care. I really don't care if I say this. Fascism has no fucking room in a communist movement. Reactionary bullshit like American patriotism has no right in a movement. And lying about what people's positions are has no place in a Marxist movement. It doesn't. You want to fucking debate, do it honestly, and do it in a way that's in good faith. There's a good reason Caleb Maupin didn't debate Jason, because Jason would have, destroyed his points. Third worldism, you don't have to agree with it. You don't even have to, support its ideas. But if you're going to debate the ideas, do it in a way that's actually honest. Like, I've yet to hear one good argument against it, except from Maoists. Every single argument I've heard against it is mostly, like, usually from people that are from middle-class backgrounds. It's never people who have actually studied Marxism in depth, who actually, like, you know what, this third worldism, and I've heard, people who don't agree with it, that they just see it as defeatism, which that's not what it is. Or that they just, like, list examples, of it, not being practical or whatever. There is good criticisms of third worldism, but I've never heard it from the Caleb camp. It's always the same, like, oh, this is anti-American or blah, 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 blah. It's like, I don't see how saying that America is not revolutionary is serving imperialism. I don't see how that is. I don't see how advocating for resistance in the first world is advocating for imperialism or supporting it. It's just so stupid. It's like the mental gymnastics that the Caleb cult will do to justify their backwards positions is just laughable. It really is laughable. It's laughable. I mean, if you're going to have a good argument against Maoism as well, at least come up with something that's substantial. Come up with something that actually makes sense and that is actually, a good critique other than like, oh, it's just ultra leftism or it's just a bunch of edgy teenagers. It's like, I'm sorry, last time I checked, a lot of Maoists are actually grown ass men, who are mostly people of color in their 20s and 30s. It's not freaking teenagers. That's just a generalization. I can easily say that MLs are overwhelmingly, a white boys club, and that would be a generalization. And I would deserve to be criticized for generalizing MLs because that's not true. There's MLs from many different backgrounds, just like Maoists. It's like using, and let's speaking of which, the ultra leftism, like just throwing around an ultra leftist. It's like, you're an ultra leftist. 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 And you're an ultra leftist. The more you use the word ultra leftism, the more it doesn't have meaning. What does it fucking mean anymore? Because ultra leftism is adventurous, which that's exactly what it is. Resisting against the police, being part of Antifa, like defending, your communities from fascists, that is not fucking adventurism. That is not adventurism. Doing stupid shit like doing acts of terrorism, that's adventurism. That's ultra leftism. Not disagreeing with somebody that because you don't, because they don't like what you have to say, or basically like, oh, you don't like, you're anti-American, so you're an ultra leftist. That's not what fucking ultra leftism is. Or another example, of what is not ultra leftism, being anti-American or not being an American patriot is not ultra leftism. It's mostly used against, people that are trying to form a anti, fascist, cell in America, and they're the ones that are usually labeled as ultra leftists. And I can't believe I'm defending the anarchists here because I strongly disagree with anarchism, but the anarchists have done more to resist the fascists in the United States than these Maupinites have. Most of these Maupinites are just doing shit on the internet. While the anarchists as a whole are not just doing shit on the internet, they're doing shit on the ground. And I'm just going to say it. Nobody's going to change my mind. I respect communists that do shit on the ground more than those who just do shit on the internet. Yeah, that includes me as well. That includes me as well. I would rather do shit on the ground, but unfortunately, I do not have the means to do so because of where I'm located at. Financially, I don't have the means of traveling very far. So I have to do what I can. And I have nothing but respect for those who are fighting against fascism wherever they are. And fascism needs to be resisted. And if you're anti-Antifa because, of reasons, then you're a fascist. You enable fascism by being anti-Antifa. Because last time I checked, Antifa is anti-fascist. It's like there's nothing revolutionary I see from the Maupinite cult. They're just a bunch of people, mostly white people, white leftists, pushing rhetoric that isn't that far removed from what I've seen from, fascists. And it just looks like another fascist movement. That's just what I see. They're just using Marxism, cherry picking Lenin, Stalin, Mao, Engels, and Marx to justify their social democratic bullshit. None of them are actually serious about revolution. No fucking revolutionary, and this is a straw man I often hear from these people, advocates for violence sake. We recognize violence is inevitable. You're not going to build socialism peacefully. You may be able to do it in some countries, but America especially, no. Most sects of the population will fight to the death to ensure that socialism never comes here. You want to prove that there's a fascist movement like overwhelming in America? In my fucking state of California, there's this crazy lady. You could watch it in Socialism for All's critique on that debate. Was saying a bunch of really weird shit, like talking about, and not to mention dog whistling to fascists about coming here legally, and she's a Vietnamese woman. I don't even know where she's from Vietnam, but you have people like that in my state who are openly fascist running for Congress. Those are the kind of people you want to appeal to. It's like there's like a huge community you could appeal to, but these people purposely ignore the poorer parts of America, the dirty parts of America, what they see, because the poor working class and the lumpen are too dirty for them. That's what they see these people as. And I'm sorry if I'm an ultra leftist for saying the middle class are reactionary. They are. I don't trust the middle class. I don't trust the middle class not to stab us in the back if there ever was a revolution, because they're overwhelmingly fascist, and they will overwhelmingly support a fascist takeover of the country. Who are the biggest supporters of the police? It's the fucking middle class. Who are the biggest supporters of the military? The middle class. Who are the biggest supporters of Trump? The middle class. And who are the biggest supporters of Joe Biden? The middle class. Who are going to be the biggest and loudest supporters of Kamala Harris? The middle class. You cannot trust these people. The middle class as a whole are lost. You may be able to get some of them on your side. You may be able to get the ones that have come from a working class background to join your side, but you cannot 100% trust these people, because a lot of the time they'll just betray you. There's a huge group of people these people could be appealing to. They could reach out to these people. And that's the people I want to reach out to. I want to reach out to the lumpen. I want to reach out to the middle, to the poor working class that are living on a shoestring. I know what it's like to be on a shoestring, because I've been living it for all of my adult life. I know what it's like to live on a shoestring. And the fact that anyone would dare tell me they understand my class better than I understand my own, I'm sorry, buddy. I've lived poor all my life. I know what it's like to be poor and to be disabled. I know none of you know what it's like to have to wrestle with fucking government fucking bureaucrats all the goddamn time, or every few years having to deal with Social Security's fucking bullshit. Because you don't have to deal with that every fucking few years. No, you guys, you have your fucking jobs that pay you decently well, or you're fucking, doing your shit on fucking YouTube or Patreon. It doesn't fucking matter. It's like you guys have it pretty fucking easy compared to the people that would actually support a fucking socialist movement. And you know what? You don't need to get most of the population on your side. You only need a good amount on your side to succeed, like 20 to 30%. You don't need like the overwhelming majority of the fucking reactionaries that you're trying to appeal to. They don't want socialism. They don't fucking want your bullshit. These people will side with fucking fascism before they will side with a socialist movement. And these people will, like, of course, anybody that actually doesn't exist on the internet, they're feds. Anybody that actually pushes like positions that are different from them or that contradicts theirs, they're feds. I mean, it's the same racist and anti-Semitic nonsense. I mean, that we hear. I mean, if you look at fucking Caleb's audience as a whole, they're fucking, most of them are anti-Semitic, freaking white nationalists. I mean, what have I seen that isn't that? It's like I've had nothing but contempt from this group, from even before this falling out happened. They hate disabled people. They hate the lumpen. They hate poor working class people. Anyone that doesn't fucking look like a fucking, businessman is not fucking worth talking to these people. And I don't care. I hope I never have to talk about Caleb Maupin again. Because tomorrow I'm going to talk about some serious problems regarding being a disabled worker under capitalism. Because there are some serious issues I want to focus on. Freaking, cringe, unhinged. Let them do their shit about Jason. Let them do their shit. If they want to fucking do a jab at me, go fuck yourself. I don't fucking care. Do it. Because all their channel is fucking a bunch of drama. I mean, fucking Be Liberal has done nothing but thrive on drama and has even before, cringe unhinged existed. So yeah, let them do that. Let them do that. I will focus on doing stuff I would want to talk about. I don't want to talk about infrared. I don't want to talk about Caleb Maupin. I would rather talk about being disabled under capitalism. But I'm not going to have it be part of a stream like this because this is an open-ended stream. And tomorrow's stream is going to be on a specific topic because I think talking about disabled workers is a topic that Marxists have not talked about enough. Yeah, that is true. That is true. Because they're fucking nosballs. All of them are fucking nosballs. B-level included. And I'm just going to say this now. I do believe in guilt by association. I know people don't like this. I don't care. If you don't denounce people that have problematic positions or say racist things and things that are borderline fascist and you don't push back against that, guess what? You agree with it. You agree with it and you don't have a problem with it. Actions speak louder than words. And if you are not willing to speak out against the basically, oh, so what? The British would have done it too. Doesn't fucking matter. You don't fucking justify genocide against an entire, group of people. You don't justify genocide and slavery. You just don't fucking do it. You just don't. You don't fucking do it. Even if you disagree with your opponent, even if you hate your opponent that you're debating, you don't fucking do it. You just concede that it's fucking wrong and fucking move on. You don't fucking bend over backwards to defend like fucking slavery. That's just fucking stupid. It's like, oh, I want I want to own the libs. Oh, I want to own Jason. Just accept the fucking that Jason was right about that and moved on. That's all he had to do. But no, he had to fucking, bend over backwards to defend America by any means necessary. This is the kind of shit that you get from the right. They either downplay slavery, or like fucking say I don't care, or say get over it. It happened years ago. Decolonization isn't virtual signaling, which is another thing I'm going to have to say. It is not. It's giving the people who had their land stolen their land back so they could have their own independence. No, giving them one part of land is not enough. Give them their own land. Let them be in charge of it. And this may sound harsh. White people should not be in charge of a revolution in America. If we ever have one, it should not be white people. It should be the indigenous and the new African people. They should be in charge. We should be following them, not the other way around. And is it harsh for me to say that? Yeah, it is. But you know what? I don't fucking care. If you look at how white culture is, no. The few people, white communists out there who reject this bullshit and reject whiteness as a whole, we should not be trying to take leadership of these movements. And we should be actually following these people and actually helping them overthrow this fucking fascist state, not fucking trying to take over their movement. I mean, there's a reason why, like, black leftists don't trust, us. They don't trust us. They don't trust white leftists at all. And you know what? Why should they? When you see shit like they've been saying, like I've been saying, when you constantly see, borderline fascists who are Nazbols, let's just call them Nazbols, who claim, this and this and that, when they constantly talk down to people of color, constantly like berate them, or basically claim that they're not real communists, or they constantly backstab them, there's a good reason why Black Red Guard is jaded. There's a good reason why, many people of his community do not trust white communists. There's a good reason for that. Because when they see a white communist, they just see somebody that is no different from the white liberal. They really don't. GPAs. Caleb CPI. I mean, I know a good amount of the stream has been about, this kind of stuff, but this stuff has been prevalent for a while, and I had to say it. I know other people who have said it's better than I could and will. And realistically, the American Marxists, we have our work cut out for us. We really do. We are dealing with fascists who are the Trumpites, and then we're dealing with red fascists that use Marxism to push their fascist agenda. We have our work cut out for us. We really do. I really do. We have our work cut out for us. If Caleb Moffin were to run, I don't know. I don't know. I cannot say. Anyway, I know this has been an anti-infrared and Caleb stream, mostly, despite being an open discussion. But it's been on my mind for a long time now, and I had to say it. Fuck the Caleb cult. Cults of personality have no place in Marxism. They have no place in a Marxist movement. Infantile leftism has no place in a Marxist movement. American patriotism is infantile. It's a proven failure. Like, this is the reason why communists have always failed in America, because they've never learned from their failures. It's always the fault of XXX, but it's never, their fault. It's like communists are never going to succeed in this country because they refuse to learn from their failures. Trying to cater to the worst of the population is never going to work if you're trying to build a Marxist movement. Your movement's going to be co-opted by fascists. There's a reason why the government don't see people like Caleb or Haas as a threat, because they're not. They don't challenge the system in any way. I wouldn't have as much issues with them if they weren't pushing social democratic positions and acting like they're Marxists. And no, this is not gatekeeping. This is not sectarianism. I see things how they are. I've been studying this shit for years. I have a lot to learn, and I'm humble enough to admit there's still a lot I don't know. The same can't be said for the people that constantly ridicule me and people like me because we don't believe in the bullshit that they are pushing. I don't claim to be right on everything, and I'm probably going to be wrong on a lot of things too. But I'm going to be man enough to admit that I was wrong. And if I ever, in the future make the same mistake I made a month ago by platforming somebody, and let him take over the stream completely, I will criticize myself for that. Self-criticism is an essential part of Marxism. But I actually do think that it's hypocritical as well. I think it's hypocritical in general to claim that you're for self-criticism, yet you don't do it yourself. And I'm going to call everybody out for this. If you don't self-criticize when you've made a mistake, then expecting other people to do what you won't do yourself is hypocritical. And no, you cannot do it in a private, internet form. If you're going to self-criticize, you will do it, publicly, when everyone can watch it. So because those people could. I've been pissed off at Trav for a few months now, and you know what? I will give Trav credit that he actually was a man and actually self-criticized on his channel. Regardless what my feelings, I'm going to give the man credit. He deserves credit and applause for self-criticizing himself, for doing what he's been doing. So Trav, if you're watching this, I applaud you for doing that. A real man apologizes and self-criticizes when they do something wrong. So, my final thoughts before I end this stream. Down with debate bro culture. Down with the Moppanite cult. Down with the infrared cult. Down with infantile leftism. Down with American patriotism. Long live the People's Revolution.